Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the second installment of the DEI Grant Awardees presentations. We are tremendously excited to continue sharing with you how DEI is being expanded across our campus with various units that have been awarded grant monies from the Presidential Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Fund. Today, we have a wonderful lineup for those that are joining us either virtually or will see this on repeat. We are excited that our first presentation is from the Increasing Diversity in Undergraduate Research Academy. We are really pleased to have both Jennifer Poe and Jessi Smith here to share with us the wonderful work that they are doing in regards to undergraduate research and expanding the experiences of our students across the campus. So at this time, I just want to say thank you again for joining us and welcome to this second installment and presentation. Jennifer and Jessi, I would love to turn it over to you. Jennifer, I think you're still on mute.
Sorry, classic. Thank you so much, Dr. Spaulding. My name is Jennifer Poe, and I'm the director for the Center for Student Research here at UCCS. Also on this call, as Dr. Spaulding mentioned, is Dr. Jessi Smith, who's our Associate Vice Chancellor for Research here at UCCS, and she's also part of our executive committee for the CSR and the mastermind behind a lot of what our center is today. So we are thrilled to have been selected for the DEI Award, and we're looking forward to sharing with you what we'll be doing with the money to support our research community and to foster diversity, equity, and inclusion as it relates to our student researchers. So just for a bit of context, I'm sorry, my slides are not progressing. My slides are not advancing. Oh, there we go. Okay. So just for a little bit of context, the CSR was established in 2019, and our central mission is really to help encourage and support students to get involved in mentored experiences with faculty and to really jumpstart their research careers. And really, as a caveat, just when we say research, we do mean any mentored experience with faculty where students are working collaboratively with a faculty mentor outside of class. So be this in a research lab or on a scholarly work, maybe in the humanities or in creative works and performances with VAPA. So in pursuit of this mission, our main objectives are to utilize an apprentice model of student-faculty collaboration, to provide an aspirational peer mentoring model with a graduate peer mentor, and more broadly to foster a campus community of student researchers and faculty mentors. So while our center supports all students, we are also keenly aware of existing inequities in who actually gets to participate in research. So we especially want to encourage and foster these experiences for our underrepresented minority students and first-generation students. And now our award, our DEI award, specifically is going to focus on these first two objectives of our mission, with, by extension, hopefully supporting our third objective as well. An ongoing program here at UCCS has been the Undergraduate Research Academy, which we've had in place since 2013, and it is now housed within the Center for Student Research. So since 2013, we have hosted 9 cohorts of student researchers with a total of 131 projects that have been funded. So we fund these at generally the $3,500 level, and students and faculty apply together, but the majority of the money goes to student pay. The students take part in the summer workshop series where they develop researcher skills and identity while also working collaboratively on their project with their faculty mentor. Now, our institutional research data has demonstrated really positive outcomes for these URA students. So I'll share just a little bit of the data we have from this. Our URA students, in comparison to other remaining UCCS students, they're 2 times more likely to attend graduate school. Our URA students also have about a 25% higher GPA than the average GPA for UCCS students, and they also have a 35% higher graduation rate. And really these data are a great snapshot that's also represented across institutions that also use these undergraduate research experiences. So our data are tracking along with what other institutions see as these positive outcomes for students engaging in this kinds of mentored experiences. But one issue we do also see is that our URA from the 8 cohorts that we have current data on, is that it really lacks diversity. So among the 8 cohorts that we have current data on, over 78% reported that they are white. And furthermore, over 60% of the funded projects are just from STEM-based disciplines, which isn't a problem necessarily. But when we look at other funded projects, we only have 2 funded projects from women and ethnic studies, and only about 6% of studies funded projects have been from criminal justice or sociology. So it's clear that we need to do a better job reaching out to and recruiting students from diverse backgrounds and those with projects centered in areas addressing diversity, equity, inclusion issues. Which brings us to our first initiative with these DEI funds. And our aim here is to directly and immediately increase the diversity of the URA. And this speaks really to that first objective of our CSR mission, which is to utilize that apprentice model of student-faculty collaborations. And we'll be funding 6 additional URA awards at the $3,500 level in 2022. And these 6 awards are going to go specifically to students from underrepresented or minoritized backgrounds and or students who are working on DEI-related projects. So we'll begin advertising these awards this fall and begin recruiting in the spring. We're hoping to partner with Mosaic to make sure advertising is reaching the students who these awards will be applicable for. Now, since not all students can take part in the URA, and this is only 6 students in total, we want to make sure we're using these DEI funds to also establish some long-term programming for other students outside of the URA, which is our second initiative and speaks really to that second objective of our CSR mission. So we'll be establishing an inclusive support for non-URA members by instituting our graduate peer mentor program. So our aspirational peer mentor will be ideally a graduate student from an underrepresented background themselves, but to get that program thought out intentionally and carefully, we are going to use the remaining funds from the DEI grant to fund a graduate SAHI student at the $4,000 level to help us develop training materials, evaluation, and selection criteria for the graduate peer mentor position. So we hope that providing us close peer mentor for our undergraduates will help create a sense of belonging and serve as a source of support and advice for novice researchers. And as I said earlier, we are hoping that this graduate peer mentor will themselves be from an underrepresented background and can help serve as an inspirational and aspirational role model for our CSR members, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds. As far as measuring success here at UCCS, for our URA student outcomes, we will still be leveraging that IR data to track outcomes, and we can also at a more granular level look at just those 6 students that we were funding individually with this DEI money to track retention rates, so that persistence to graduation, GPA, both pre and post URA experience, and then also later on be able to track graduate school matriculation. And then for our graduate peer mentor, as I said, also our SAHI student will be developing plans for evaluation for activities that our graduate peer mentor engages in with their mentees. And we'll also, when available, be able to leverage some of our IR data to track outcomes for our CSR members that engage with our graduate peer mentor. And finally, more broadly, we hope that our initiatives funded with this award help to increase the visibility of the existing inequities in who currently gets to participate in research and creative works with faculty. And that through our center and the Graduate Peer Mentor Program, we're able to more long-term foster a sense of inclusion and belonging for our underrepresented minority students involved in mentored experiences. I did want to quickly thank our executive committee for the Center for Student Research. We do have representation from all 6 colleges here at UCCS, and I'm thankful for their support. Thank you.
And thank you, Jennifer. Again, these are amazing opportunities for both our undergraduates and graduate students. If you are in SAHI, please pay attention to the calls for proposals and apply. Encourage your colleagues to apply, because we know the impact of being able to do research at the undergraduate level to propel one's career further in academia and beyond. So again, thank you so much. And thank you, Jessi, for all that you do in research for this campus. At this time, we also want to share other opportunities and things that are happening across the campus as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. This time we'll have Rose Walker from Human Resources. What's going on in human resources as we expand again the makeup of our university and the work that we are able to do. So welcome, Rose, and thank you for your application and your work.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Spaulding. Give me one moment and I'll share my screen. Okay, so this afternoon I'm going to talk about the specific DEI grant that we received, which was with historical Black colleges and universities. I'm going to go over the goal for our grant, how we're using the money, how success will be measured, and what we're hoping the impact will be with UCCS. So before we begin, I think it's important to start with the question, why does diversity matter in recruitment? And the biggest reason is that it's important for us as a university. It's part of the 2020 strategic plan to cultivate a culture of inclusive excellence that responds to the diversity of our campus inclusion. So that really allows us, as far as the recruitment, it really allows us to promote an inclusive university that both promotes and sustains a sense of belonging. So first, I wanted to take a look at what the current makeup of the university is. And right now we have 59.6% females, 40.4% males. However, when you look at our minority representation, we only have 19.3% of our faculty and staff are minorities. We have 80.7% that are white. So our goal here was really to be able to improve the diversity of our faculty and staff. So why did we choose to advertise in historical Black colleges and universities? As a federal contractor, it's really important that we have a pipeline of educated and trained individuals that really can impact and contribute to the university. The connections that we have through HBCUs really allow us to identify and connect with individuals who have the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we need for them to join our workforce. And lastly, as a federal contractor, it allows us to tap into a very talented pool that is enriched with the knowledge and ideas that we need that will benefit the university. So as we looked at what our strategic plan was specifically for recruiting with HBCUs, our goal was to effectively find diverse talent that improves our recruitment pipeline. And in order to do that, we have to recruit where diversity thrives. By incorporating diversity recruitment into our campus strategy, specifically by adding HBCUs. And by targeting and building strategic partnerships with HBCUs, it really allows us to boost our diversity recruitment and our return on investment. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of the activity and results that we've seen since we started advertising in July. We have had over 13,000 views of our job postings, and we are now posting all of our assistant and full professor positions. We've had over 1,300 clicks to apply to our positions. So we're definitely seeing an increase in activity as a result of the advertising that we're doing. We started advertising in July, so this end of September was really the end of the first quarter that we could see results. We're looking for increased activity at the end of the second quarter, and our grant was for 1 year. So July of next year, 2022, will be the first full annual year as far as our recruitment in HBCUs. So there's 3 things that we can point to as far as what success will look like. First and foremost, it will be an increased number of minority hires. As a result of that, we're looking to improve inclusivity as well as a sense of belonging with our faculty and staff. And that end result will allow us to better serve our students with faculty and staff that better represent our campus community. And thank you so much. We are so grateful for the funding that we've received by the DEI grants that allow us to do this specific and targeted recruiting.
Thank you, Rose. And again, if you are watching now or even later, please share with your colleagues, both here on campus, in the region, and beyond, because where we are recruiting is going to make up the composition of our campus. So share all of our positions, our postings, and hopefully we can have an even greater impact on the diversity of this campus. Again, thank you so much, Rose. At this time, we will move to our next presenter, which is Carlos Duarte from Kramer Family Library, and learn how diversity, equity, and inclusion is working and operating even in our library collections and space. Carlos?
How are you all doing? So I'm going to talk about a new library collection that we're developing that's going to focus on kind of cultural exploration and self-reflection. So what we're doing is we're repurposing about 60 linear feet of shelving. Librarians measure feet in terms of linear feet. How many books can you fit on a shelf, right? So we're going to repurpose 60 feet of shelving to house a new collection that's dedicated to the exploration of genealogy, which is where we come from, because we all come from somewhere, intergenerational experiences, how we relate to people like a little bit older than us, a little bit younger than us, maybe a lot older or younger than us. And then those experiences, how we think about storytelling, how we think about the arts, and how we think about self-expression within academia and as developing people. We're working to create experiential learning opportunities for folks. Like, we really want places within the library where people can experience something new, can develop something, can play with ideas. And we want to make sure that it's happening in the library, but it's also really important that we think about these experiences happening outside of our discrete areas of study, right? So maybe you're an engineering student who wants to learn a little bit about photography or about arts appreciation. Maybe you're a VAPA student who wants to understand how scientists think about thinking, or how they decided they wanted to become like a scientist or an engineer. Like, that's the kind of information we want there. What we're really trying to do is break down barriers to engagement. Librarians are really good at thinking about access. Like, we really like thinking about access to information. But one thing that we often forget is that we carry a lot of baggage with ourselves. We carry a lot of experiential learning. And sometimes that can prevent us from engaging with material because we think that it may not be for us. So this collection is going to help we are hoping to help break down some of those barriers. We also want to make sure that we're offering this physical and conceptual space for people to think about culture. So there may be things that you're learning in your programs that help give you strength. There may be things that you're learning in your programs that you want to push back against. Like, we really want a place for people to engage in cultural exploration and self-reflection so that they can strengthen themselves, strengthen their peers, and really foster a sense of community and equity here on campus, and where the library can actually help create an appreciation for a diversity of lifestyles, viewpoints, perspectives, ethnicities, lots and lots of things. Okay, so how are we actually going to do this with a little bit of money? So what we're doing is we're taking the funds that were allotted to purchase materials for library programming and workshops. We want to be able to buy things that people can play with. And some of this is starting small, so you can think about creative opportunities like zine making, arts and crafts, things that kind of get your hands busy. The other thing we're doing is we're investing in furniture to move the existing collection, which is our new book display, to a more visible space. So that way all of our users will be impacted by this. Like everyone walking through the library will get to see a little bit of what's up on the third floor and kind of hidden away in the main stacks. By doing this, this is going to allow us to take the lines we're using to fund our existing collections and kind of make sure that we're using some of that for this type of learning. So that would come from our intergenerational funds, our general library funds, film purchases, that sort of thing. Okay, how would we think about the success? Like, how do you think about success in libraries is always kind of an issue. So pretty basically, what we're going to be doing is maintaining usage stats. Like we'll be able to see what's circulating from this collection, which will inform us. Well, it'll help us know like what's popular. What do we need to invest more in? Is there something that's not interesting? Do we need to think about how we would talk about these issues? We'll also be scheduling, keeping records of any events we're planning and keeping track of attendance. As with most library assessment, all of this information is anonymized, mostly because we want to make sure that people can ask questions without fear of any sort of reprisal, where you can be open and curious about things. We'll also be soliciting feedback and requests from our patrons. And by patrons, I mean faculty, staff, students, community members, anyone who comes into the library. We really want to hear from you on what you want to learn and what modes you like learning in. So finally, we have to ask ourselves what we really think our lasting impact will be here at UCCS. So one thing that I would personally like to see is not just stakeholder participation, but that students start seeing themselves as stakeholders in the library. Libraries are sites of knowledge creation, and students help drive that. So asking questions, getting involved, understand that you can kind of ask pointed questions of us. We really want to hear from an engaged base of users. That might impact our collection development, our workshop planning, how we execute our workshops. Do we need to think about the way we phrase questions? And we really want to, we'd love to see increased usage in the physical space. And I think most, at the core of this is we really want to further the library's goal of fostering a sense of community, not just here on campus, but afterwards. I want people to think about how they talk with one another, how they engage with one another, how that can contribute to a shared sense of equity wherever we go on to build communities after our time here at UCCS. I think having a deeper appreciation of diversity and understanding how to build on that, how to learn from that, how that can strengthen you in all of your relations, across the board, that's something I really care about. And we're aiming to do this through improving our collections, our interactions, and learning about other forms of literacy, how we see things through visual literacy, how we hear things, how we understand. There's a lot more than just reading our ABCs. We need to really focus on who we are as people and how we learn to be literate and compassionate with one another. Yeah, thank you.
And thank you again, Carlos. There is absolutely much more to building community and to libraries than reading our ABCs. So please, I know that we are still dealing with some restrictions due to COVID, but when you have the opportunity, get over to Kramer Family Library and see what all is going on as we are expanding and doing the work of community building. Thank you once again. At this time, we have our last presenter for today, but definitely not the least presenter. Again, so much amazing work happening across the campus in multiple units that we are truly grateful for each and every person that applied for a grant and the work that is continuously being done to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion on our campus. Right now, we invite Casey Lopez, who will share with us how we are enhancing early education for children of tribal nations. Casey, take it away. Gotta hit that mute button. This is life in remote.
How's that for technology? I want to first thank everyone for the opportunity to further enhance our diversity, equity, and inclusion in inclusive early childhood education. This is where all learning begins, is in the earliest stages of development. So what I'll touch upon briefly is the goal for the DEI grant that was awarded, how the funding is used, how success will be measured, and what the impact will be for UCCS. So the overarching goal for the DEI grant that was awarded is to provide funds to bring a focus on the often neglected needs of early learning for our tribal nation children. I have 20+ years of experience of being a teacher in school districts where the majority of the students were tribal nation children, and I would have liked to have had the knowledge that is being brought into this work at that time. So this grant is providing the integration of tribal nation learning in the field of IECE, Inclusive Early Childhood Education, which is not currently embedded in the program courses for our future teachers at UCCS. So ensuring that diverse learning styles are included in teacher preparation programs is critical in building educational systems of equity. Funding from this grant allows for appropriate materials to be integrated into IECE courses that reflect indigedagogy. We'll talk about that briefly in a moment, but the foundational pieces for the IECE teacher preparation program at UCCS is built on cultural responsive practices, strategies for inclusion, trauma-informed care, learning through play, behavioral and mental health, and through this funding, we will now build in indigedagogy. I have the Navajo basket here because the first movement we're making in integration of materials is with our Navajo Nation. So really briefly, just touching upon indigedagogy, what is it? It is the indigenous knowledge, literature, and scholarship centered on land-based education. Indigedagogy engages indigenous methodologies such as circle work, traditional teachings, ceremonies, cultural practices. Indigedagogy is decolonizing practice that builds on the resurgence of indigenous ways of knowing, teaching, and learning. And out of all of this, the goal is to bring that awareness for our future teachers who will be entering the classroom with a great diverse population of students and having that background knowledge in their teaching practice. The allocation of money from this grant is through a reciprocal partnership with consultants from tribal nations, currently working with Dr. Berlinda Begay from the Navajo Nation and Miss Judy Geisinger, who is a non-tribal educator who works directly with students. So that reciprocal relationship, collaboration between the faculty, students, and consultants to design indigedagogy into our IECE program, UCCS. Money will be used to help support students' research and presentation projects that center around indigedagogy. How would they use that knowledge to further build inclusive instructional practices in their classroom? Majority of the money right now is going to that time and travel to engage with the consultants and the time being spent building the curriculum courses with that integrated model of indigedagogy, bringing materials into the program that support indigedagogy. And I need to speak with Carlos, right, our library, on how we can work together and collaborate to further build upon his initiative, and also with our recruitment systems, because one part of this is the potential outreach and building that cohort program to enroll and support the development of inclusive early childhood educators, teachers, and directors serving Indigenous communities. Oh, I did miss also part of the funding is getting virtual speakers to come in and meet with our students and engage in ongoing training opportunities. Success will be measured through rubrics being built for the student research and presentation projects that reflect indigegogy in education. Additionally, surveys and feedback will be gathered from all the participants after each virtual session with our consultants, and that data will be used to inform our reflective time, our time to reflect, to make revisions in the courses that we're integrating content into, and to further develop that indigegogy into our course for IECE. The overall impact is to truly build in and provide the indigegogy into our equity, diversity, inclusion that is taking place at UCCS, to broaden the awareness and give our teachers, future teachers, that strong foundation in their instructional practices, to include our Indigenous learning ways, to build those partnerships. Let's get some teachers at UCCS who are ready to go out and work in our tribal nations, in the school districts that are there, who need our focused support, and teachers, qualified teachers, highly qualified teachers there to support them. And to prepare our teachers, let's get them ready. Just a quick overview of this 3-year grant process. The funding is outlined, how it will be used. What has been completed so far is on-site visits by faculty to the consultant's location, where we began that collaborative work, the expectations, and building that partnership. We've also had the consultants already visit UCCS on campus. They've been here to tour the campus, get an idea of where future teachers can go, where they'll be taking courses that are now including the integration of Indigenous learning, language, culture. And finally, we've been working pretty well, moving smoothly with that course integration, the modules being built for our students. Right now, the focus with our Navajo culture and context for learning and that continued collaboration. We're currently videoing the guest speakers so that we can have those available for our instructors in their classes. And you can see our timeline will continue through the fall and spring up through the spring of 2024. And just to give a quick little view into what this is looking like currently, you'll see that our inclusive early childhood education, IECE 1000, introduction to the program, identifies which learning outcomes will be integrated with our indigegogy, our Navajo indigegogy. And currently, the consultants and I are building in those PowerPoints, getting the list of appropriate books to put in our courses and to give that awareness to our teachers who are getting ready for the field. And then also resource links. So as instructors go into their courses, they'll see additional resources and ways to integrate indigegogy into their classroom. So just to recap everything, overall goal with this grant, which I'm so grateful for, is that awareness of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our teacher preparation program, knowing that it's critical in building educational systems that support all. And with the funding from this DEI grant, the Inclusive Early Childhood Education degree program at UCCS will prepare teachers with an awareness of indigedagogy, provide materials to support the integration of indigedagogy, and create potential outreach into building that cohort program to enroll and support the development of IECE licensed teachers and directors serving Indigenous communities. Thank you so much for this opportunity and this time, and thank you.
And thank you, Casey. Again, I want to thank all of our presenters. I want to thank everyone who is watching live right now and those who will watch later. If you have questions right now, we would love to take them in the live chat. But I also just want to point out the level of the extensiveness of the work that is happening across our campus as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the collaboration. Even in the chat right here, we are finding ways to work together and to think of ideas of how we can expand what is already taking place. That is the beauty of inclusive work, collegially, as well as just building community. When we begin to listen to the diverse voices, when we honor the different level of work that everyone is doing for our campus, we find better ways to create a sense of belonging and to include each other in the work that we are doing so that we have greater impact, not just at UCCS, but throughout the Pikes Peak region, the state of Colorado, and the world. So again, I want to thank you all for joining us. If there are any questions, I don't believe that we've had any yet, but should you have a question later, please feel free to reach out to us via email at dei@uccs.edu to learn more about our grant awardees and the programs that they are working on. And join us in our next Chew and Chat as we hear from other grantees about the work that they are contributing to our UCCS community. I am Dr. Stephany Rose Spaulding, the Interim Associate Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and I am grateful that you all have joined us today. Thank you once again to our presenters, and have a fabulous rest of your week.